Good evening. Welcome to this fifth class of analytical chemistry, where we are discussing about some real example where we have seen that deer killing by some toxin, and analytical chemist has the liability or responsibility to identify this toxin and whether this particular toxin is responsible to kill those deers in a natural forest or in some other places. So, is basically this particular type of toxin which comes under the toxicology research can be lethal to the human being also, and where we are discussing about the sampling, here we have seen that the deer kidneys were chosen, where from we take the sample basically, because we are suspecting the possible pathogen which can rapidly eliminate from any animal through its urinary tract. So, if you are also poisoned with something which is toxic to your body, and that can also be eliminated from your body through the urinary tract via kidney. So, this particular toxin will be there and it will be absorbed within the tissues of kidney. So, tissues of kidney will be therefore handled to find out the possible poisoning effect of ASO4 3- that we were discussing last time, that how to identify. That means, we all know that there are now two aspects of analytical chemistry, what an analytical chemist can perform to identify whether the species is typically ASO4 3- or some other species like that of our ASO3 3- or anything else that is responsible for the killing of all these deers. So, initial thing is the identification, that means the qualitative aspect, and then the amount. So, these two are pretty important, and each of them are related to each other, because once we find out the amount of arsenic is there and the amount of arsenic poisoning, so we will be talking something related to the concentration of arsenic in all these living tissues in the body as well as in the kidney. So, we should have this particular thing. Today we will also discuss, probably in this particular class or in the next class, that how to get these samples. That means, the sampling process, which is a very important step in analytical chemistry, how to get these samples, because we have seen that how we can handle the Martian rock, how we can handle any ore of iron, or now we are seeing something where the biological samples or the biological tissues are there, from where we can find out the amount of arsenic or as ASO4 3- which is responsible for the killing of those deers. So, to how to get that? So, if we have two kidneys, we all know that we have two kidneys, was cut into pieces and homogenized in a high speed blender. So, we know that like of our mixie, we use some blending process. So, similarly, these chopped kidneys, so chopped kidneys of these deer and be cut into pieces, and then high speed blender is utilized. That means, we are taking out of these species from the adsorbed kidney. So, how much we should take? So, 10 gram samples of the homogenized tissues from each deer were placed in the porcelain crucibles then. So, we go for blending process and then we get the sample. So, some amount of sample. So, the W is important, that means W gram of this, because the technique will have some limitation that how much sample we should take, what type of analysis it is. So, this W gram of sample will be required to get this particular ASO43 minus. So, how to get that? So, that is the real challenge, or that is the real question to everybody and even to the analytical chemist, that how you get these samples from this particular kidney samples in the solution form. Suppose we think it that ASO43 minus is in the solution form, because as we all know that this is very easy to handle. Even if you are given for sodium arsenate sample in some unknown solution, you can very easily find out the identification of this particular species as the sodium arsenate, as well as the amount of that particular species present as the required concentration what you are going to determine. So, in the solution state, how we can bring the species which is originally adsorbed within the kidneys. So, these homogenized kidney samples we take in the crucible. So, why we take this crucible? Because the crucibles can withstand a very high temperature, and our idea is therefore for the procedure, for the methodology is that we get these tissues. So, you have the tissues. So, tissues has to be burned. So, tissues are there. If we burn them, so what is that? What sort of thing we can do by burning this process? So, we take this in crucible, and if you just simply heat it, so if you can take that, so we all know that if we take this in the on the open burner flame, so it is in the crucible. So, you take this burner and we heat it. So, what will happen? So, this organic part, these biological tissues, they are the organic part. So, organic part will be destroyed first, because we are looking for something which is an inorganic part. So, that is why we should all be careful what we are going to determine. So, inorganic analyte we are going to determine from this particular experiment as a real life example also. So, when we burn this, so a type of burning process we will get, and that is known as a corresponding thing which is known as dry assing. So, what is that dry assing? So, this particular burning process where samples are taken in the crucible and we heated is by a burner, or sometime it can be heated by furnace at very high temperature. So, the temperature in degree centigrade is also should be known to us, that what sort of temperature, what magnitude of temperature we should use to burn this, such that we will get something in the usable form of this arsenic in some oxide or in some anionic form. So, this particular thing is known as dry assing. So, is assing. So, we will go for ash formation. So, if we keep on burning everything, so what we will find that we try to convert the organic matrix, because the matrix we all know that is the complex form, everything is there, because the blood vessels will be there, the tissues will be there, and all other things are there, and we try to burn this. So, these kidney tissues, the kidney tissues are known as the typical organic matrix, and we just heat them directly in air. So, in presence of air, this particular heating process will take out all the carbonious matter present in this organic matrix, along with the hydrogen and the oxygen, those are also present, to convert them all to carbon dioxide and water. The way we burn the sugar, the way we burn the glucose and all these things, we all know that everything can be converted to carbon dioxide and water. So, this particular process is known as dry assing. That means everything we are converting to a dry ash. So, what is that ash? So, what is leaving behind to us is that particular dry ash. So, anything over there, that means we are looking for this arsenate ion. So, arsenate ion which was trapped within the kidney. So, we were trying to go for the dry ashing process. So, the dry ashing process would be beneficial to take out this particular species in a crucible, because everything we have taken within the crucible and we are heating at a particular temperature. So, what we are looking for? We are looking for the ash. So, what is that ash? So, if something is there, that means the inorganic species or inorganic ions are there. So, we can have arsenic as arsenic 3 plus or arsenic as arsenic 5 plus. So, these are the two common oxidation states of arsenic we all know. So, in this particular case, this is arsenic 5, which is arsenate ion, and the other one is the arsenite ion. So, these can be converted initially due to this particular process, because whatever carbon we have, whatever hydrogen we have and whatever oxygen we have in the biological tissues, those will all be converted to CO2 plus H2O. So, any inorganic species, so if we just tell them as that inorganic species is not indium, is inorganic. So, inorganic species like that of your metalloid arsenic, any metal ion or any other non-metal species present will be converted. So, this particular species in presence of plenty of oxygen burning. So, this particular arsenic, so in any form must be that particular area has been sprayed with this herbicide, as I told you that some herbicide has been sprayed which is arsenic based, and that herbicide is directly converting to some oxides then. So, this will give you that arsenic oxide. Since in presence of plenty of air, that means air is an oxidizing agent, we all know. So, among these two, if we consider that if say arsenic 3 plus and arsenic 5 plus both are present. So, in presence of this oxygen only the higher oxidation state, that means the arsenic 5 will be stabilized. So, we will get the corresponding oxide of As5 plus. So, due to this dry ashing process, what we get the corresponding conversion of the reaction, which is converted to As2O5. So, this particular thing will give rise to something where we go for the solution. So, next step what we will do is that if we get this as As2O5, so this is the oxide what we get after dry ashing. So, after this dry ashing we get this arsenic oxide. So, arsenic in plus 5 oxidation state, arsenic 5 oxide. So, once we get, so that is a typical example where we can analyze the different oxides, as we all know that we can have species like Fe3O4, MnO2, NiO, etc. All these metal ion oxides or metal oxides we call. So, all these metal ion oxides can be nicely converted to its corresponding solution, where iron is present as Fe2 plus or Fe3 plus, manganese is present as Mn3 plus and Ni is present as Ni2 plus. So, these are all in solution and this is in solid state. So, when we get this, so after dry ashing what ash we get, this is the corresponding oxide of arsenic. So, how we get this particular species, that means we all know that whenever we have some oxides, hydroxides, carbonates and all, they can be attacked by typical mineral acid, that means hydrochloric acid or sulfuric acid and so on. So, in this particular case also the treatment of this as the corresponding one, that means if we treat this directly by H plus of any mineral acid source, that means if we take hydrochloric acid we will have Cl minus, if we take sulfuric acid we will have SO4 2 minus, if we take nitric acid we will have NO3 minus. So, this oxide lattice or oxide structure will be attacked by this, producing what will go out, this oxygen will be attacked by H plus and water will be removed. So, arsenic, this particular ones, if the environment is not reducing or anything else, that arsenic is there as As5 plus in solution. But remember that this is not in an isolated form, it will not be present in this particular form, because what we are looking for, we are looking for AsO4 3 minus. So, this AsO4 3 minus was the species, because this particular species has some stability, is not that when we treat this with acid like these, that means all the ions are forming as the corresponding anion, no such oxo species is forming, but these are the typical anion like behavior. The metalloid arsenic will function as the metalloid like that of our phosphate PO4 3 minus or SO4 3 minus or sometimes NO3 minus. So, like this, that we are not getting nitrogen as N5 plus or sulfur as 6 plus or phosphorus as P5 plus, but these are typically all, we all know that these are the oxo anions. So, this particular technique, from the laboratory techniques what we can see, that typical qualitative analysis as well as the quantitative analysis can identify these oxo anions. So, there are certain available tests which can detect the presence of arsenate anion in solution. Suppose you are supplied with sodium arsenate and you are asked to detect that whether your solution has arsenate ion or not. Then what you can do, you can have some test where some reagent can be used which can give rise to color reaction or anything else, where we get this as the corresponding test. Or sometime if we can determine in total the corresponding anion, that means the arsenate anion in the medium, then we can detect or find the corresponding amount present in the solution. But this particular case will do something else, where we see that this can be reduced back. So, what we will see that the solutions from the deer and grass samples both were taken, because the kidney samples are giving from there and the grass samples also can be burnt in a similar fashion to get As2O5, that means arsenic pentoxide. So, arsenic pentoxide, if it is treated with SN2 plus, so initially what we get that this is the dissolution of arsenic pentoxide in mineral acid giving H3AsO4. Now, what we can do, we just reduce the corresponding thing by stannous ion. That means stannous chloride is a very simple reducing agent, and that stannous chloride can be reduced this particular thing from arsenate to arsenite. So, what is that particular reaction? Is that H3AsO4 plus SnCl2, that means the stannous chloride in solution. We all know that the stannous chloride can give rise to the solution in hydrochloric acid. So, we can form H3AsO3, that means arsenite ion, then stannic chloride plus water. So, the initial reduction step, basically we are lowering the corresponding oxidation state of the oxides of arsenic from +5 to +3, because we are looking for something where we convert this arsenic to AsH3, which is the arsine gas. And how to detect this arsine gas, that this is also a poisonous gas and is also sometimes lethal if we inhale. So, this particular technique is giving rise to some idea also that how we handle arsenate ion, how we can handle the arsenite ion if it is there in the solution originally. There is no need to reduce this from arsenate to arsenite. Then the next step is that if we can have this particular type of conical flux, we know that this Erlenmeyer flux and the reaction mixture is taken, that means the solution is taken, that means all these things are there and H3ASO3 is present in the solution. From there, if we do something in the second step, what we do, we just get the corresponding arsine gas, and this arsine gas is passed into a test tube, and if the smaller test tube type of thing, we all know that cuvette, because these cuvettes, smaller cuvettes are very useful, of definite shape and size and structure, which can be directly used as the corresponding sample compartment for spectrophotometric estimation. So, these will give rise to some idea about our estimation through the use of instruments. So, not only we are trying to detect this particular arsine gas, is not that in the color test will give you arsine gas, but we are looking for something which is present in a very low concentration, and that low concentration is lethal to those deers. So, deers are being killed by a very low concentration of arsenic based herbicide. So, this absorbent is present, so that is giving rise to this particular solution. Suppose we know all that if we have a alkali solution, so alkaline solution is there, and if we pass carbon dioxide, that will be converted to carbonate solution in the aqueous medium. So, that carbonate can be analyzed. Similarly, what we are passing is the arsine gas. Arsine gas is nothing but our ASH3. So, this is gas, and this particular gas we are trying to get in a cuvette such that this is there in a stable form, and quantitative transfer of this arsenic, whatever amount of arsenic is present, that will be present in the solution, and if some reagent is added, that should give a coloration, and we try to detect this coloration, because that colored solution should give some absorbance in the spectrophotometric estimation, which is proportional to concentration following Lambert and Beer's law. So, that we will also slowly see, but this in this particular class what we see that how a real life example can give rise to the corresponding identification as well as estimation of arsenic through the formation of this arsine gas. So, next step what we will do is that you take this particular one is then converted to that how this particular arsenite ion, because the stannous chloride reduction is very simple and a very straightforward reaction to convert the arsenate ion to arsenite ion. Then this arsenite ion is then converted to ASH3. So, this is your arsine gas, and now a strong reducing agent, that means zinc metal, the metallic zinc, which stannous chloride will not do. So, zinc metal will be utilized to convert this to give you something which is hydride. So, direct conversion of this oxoanion. So, this is basically ASO3 minus. So, this oxoanion in acidic medium can be directly converted to the corresponding gas as the arsine gas ASH3. So, here also the stoichiometric reaction is also simple. So, we should all know the corresponding stoichiometric reaction for these as this with the reaction of zinc and hydrochloric acid. We all know that the zinc in presence of this hydrochloric acid forming hydrogen gas. So, that hydrogen gas is basically reacting with this H3ASO3. How? Because this is directly reacting and this oxygen is in totality converting to your water samples, and zinc is oxidized to zinc as zinc chloride. So, this arsenic then in the +3 oxidation state, because why we are converting this step, we are using this step is that we are trying to reduce this, and we did it by using stannous chloride from +5 oxidation to +3 oxidation state, because this hydride is the stable entity what is available, as the corresponding trihydride. So, AsH3 is your trihydride, because it is not possible to get the corresponding hydride of the arsenic in the +5 oxidation state, which can be AsH5, because that is not physically possible to get. So, that we are not getting. So, we will be getting AsH3. So, in the next step what we can do, that this particular gas, when gas is there, is bubbled into the solution the way I showed you the test tube. So, that particular test tube is there, and this test tube we bubbled it, and that can be your cuvette, and then we allow it to react with a typical reagent, which is silver diethyl dithiocarbamate. So, all we know that dithiocarbamate is a chelating ligand. So, this is a sulfur-sulfur bidentate chelating ligand, which is a silver salt, and the silver salt of that particular salt is directly reacting with arsine. So, what we have now, arsine was bubbled into the solution, that means the cuvette, and that particular cuvette is basically giving rise to the corresponding formation of a colored species. So, what we get is that AsH3 and this particular salt. So, this particular salt what we get is as the corresponding silver salt. So, the silver salt of this diethyl dithiocarbamate. So, silver is present. So, it is stoichiometrically 3 units of this, the ligand, because this particular part is binding to this particular ionic center. As we all know that this is a ligand system. So, we all know that how a chelating ligand is used for binding any metal ion like Mn plus. In this particular case, we are using Ss as the sulfur bearing dithiocarbamate anion. So, having one negative charge, and that will be binding As3 plus, which we are getting from AsH3. So, this arsenic 3 plus will be binding with this Ss bidentate ligand. So, what should be the stoichiometry, that means if your L is your ligand or the reagent, that means the chelating ligand. So, this is your L. So, what should be the stoichiometry? So, because this stoichiometry, once we know, that will be useful to determine the unknown arsenic concentration. So, here this is 1:3. So, one arsenic center will be there and forming chelate with 3 Ss unit. So, this is the thing, and since one charge is coming from here. So, you have arsenic in the trivalent state. So, overall it is a neutral species. So, this particular neutral species is there and is colored. So, this particular color and how it is forming, giving rise to corresponding intensity. So, the intensity of this particular coloration can be quantitatively measured for the concentration of arsenic in the system. I am not asking to know or remember it as what particular species, because so many species we have handled so far. Arsenic was originally present in the herbicide in some form, then we form them in the different oxides, then hydrides, and then ultimately as the chelating reagent. So, this is the typical methodology we should follow, otherwise it is not possible to give you a typical procedure for the identification of these arsenic species in the kidneys of all those deer. So, this is the target species what we can determine, which is a colored complex. So, this is a complex species, and that will give rise to the corresponding coloration, and that color species can be quantified by knowing the absorbances. As I told you just now, the absorbance at a particular wavelength. So, if the color is red, so if the solution color is red, so for that solution color what we get that the corresponding coloration color we have a typical lambda max value, and with that particular lambda max value we can also have the corresponding absorbance, and a spectrophotometer is there and we get a corresponding absorbance for that particular wavelength. So, this is the lambda axis and this is the absorption axis. But what we do that for a red coloration we have the fixed lambda max value. At this lambda max value what we can change now, we bring the other parameter, that means the concentration. So, what will happen there, that A, the absorbance will be proportional to concentration, as we all know that following the Lambert-Beer's law, that A is equal to epsilon Bc is the molar absorptivity, this is the thickness, that the depth of the solution through which the radiation is passing, and C is the concentration. So, depending upon all these concentrations, so in different concentration of these arsenic, so if we have the different concentrations of arsenic like C1, C2 and C3, we should get the corresponding absorbances A1, A2 and A3. So, this concentration now we fix in such a way that we get this, because we are handling a very low concentration. That means, we are handling a ppm range of concentration. So, how the absorbance, because there is some limitation for the spectrophotometer, that certain point we find that say 0 to 4 or 0 to 3 we can go for the absorbance measurements. Otherwise, this band is very small or this band is above this particular range of measurement. So, in this particular range, that means where we have the ppm concentration. So, this ppm concentration will tell us about how much absorbance we can have. So, in actual practice what we see over here is that the absorbance increases from 0 to about 0.72, is you see that it is not crossing a value of 1, as the concentration of the arsenic, the typical concentration of arsenic within this particular chelate is increasing from 0 to 25 ppm. So, taking into consideration of all these molecular weights of different species like that of the different oxides, then the arsine what is forming, and then ultimately the complex species, we can report these values as the corresponding concentration of arsenic, because we are looking for the corresponding arsenic poisoning of those deers coming from the herbicide. That means, the corresponding acid what is forming from those arsenic as the herbicide. So, if we get this, so the whole range we can cover from 0 to 0.72 as the corresponding absorbance range for 0 to 25 ppm. So, in actual practice, when we determine the corresponding arsenic concentration for 2 deer samples, that means that 2 different samples were taken from the deer kidneys and the average values are little bit different. So, one case it is 16 ppm and in other case it is 22 ppm respectively. So, you see that these are in the range of parts per million concentration. So, parts per million concentration is very less, but this particular technique, this particular analytical technique or analytical process is so useful that we can determine this particular low concentration of 16 ppm of 22 ppm poisoning from arsenic, and that is comparable to that what is present in the grass samples. So, in case of these grass samples where the concentration of these is very high, so this particular technique is also useful for determining the concentration of 16 ppm or 22 ppm from the kidneys of the deers, but at the same time it is also useful for determination of the corresponding concentration where the grass is contaminated by the herbicide as 600 ppm. So, this 600 ppm arsenic concentration is also very useful to understand that how you can determine, because what I told you just now that we can determine from 0 to 25 ppm as absorbance range of 0 to 0.72. So, if we try to handle 600 ppm, you see that this is going beyond. So, it is about 20 times of this value which we cannot measure in the spectrophotometer. So, what we should do? We should do the corresponding proper dilution for these grass samples. We have to dilute them, and proper diluted sample we should insert into the spectrophotometer cuvette and measure the corresponding absorbance. So, all these results, basically what is the outcome of this particular analytical investigation, and how analytical chemistry is also helpful to us is that the investigators then recommended that the use of arsenical herbicides, which is a typical or poison for this deer. So, definitely these arsenical herbicides will be poisonous for any wildlife, and all these wildlife area should not use for this killing the grass in that particular area, to protect the deer and other elements that might eat the grass or the plant available over there. So, this basically gives rise to a typical example of analytical chemistry which can be used for determination of the arsenic poisoning in a forest. Thank you very much.